we've all got a story. Everyone's got a story to tell, right? And even though you were talking about this idea of being a natural, right? I think everybody does have a storytelling voice and a style that is natural to them, but we need someone to draw that out. We need someone to be able to listen and be able to coach and to be able to say, oh, this is what I'm seeing here, right? And so that's a lot of what my course here, my program does. The art of storytelling is really about immersing you in this world, what the art form is, the different ways that we express it, how each of us personally use it, right? As entrepreneurs, as leaders, as artists, in all these different ways.
Relationship, really.
Exactly. How do we find that storytelling voice that we have? How do we get clarity about what our story is, how we communicate it? And I found that as you do that, it changes the way you live the story of your life.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome to Pathways Unleashed, a special edition of Pathways with Amber Stitt. The Pathways Unleashed podcasts were recorded with special guests and the authors of The Unleashed Entrepreneur and The Biohacking Entrepreneur, who were celebrating the book launches at the Unleash Your Superpower conference in Delray Beach, Florida in April 2025. Let's join the conversation. Derrick, we're live.
Woohoo! We're here.
We're at Pathways Live, which for me, Pathways is usually recorded out of Arizona. So I want to welcome everybody here today and all of our OWL network, our community there, as well as a lot of our friends that have been in the co-author space, but also that might be with us on Friday. You'll hear us talk about Barnes & Noble this Friday for a book signing. Lots of projects and a lot of authors that I'm interviewing today, specifically because I'm maybe a little bit of an inquisitive person, but stories are so important to help not only ourselves, but others. And I thought about doing this about a year ago with all these special books that we've been reading and publishing and the bestsellers that we have access to. So I'm so excited that you are here today to watch all of us and capture some of the stories, but also hopefully be able to write your own story, whatever it is. I'm hoping that today will help motivate all of you. So my first guest of the day, Derrick Hatch. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Amber.
So as I told you, it's very important to have you be the first, I think, because you have always been a natural storyteller and you talk about this in a new book. So let's pause there and do a little congratulations on your book launch that's happening. And it's real. As of Friday, we're going to be holding them and celebrating that.
Cannot wait for that.
So it's a long time coming though, right?
It is, yeah. It's a lifelong dream that I've had. I've always been passionate about writing and storytelling. And so I've had these dreams of being a published author, right? And, working with Wendy, working with Patricia, working with all these different co-authors, that moment has arrived where it's going to be a physical, tangible book.
Yeah.
You can buy it, Barnes & Noble, Amazon. It's a beautiful feeling.
Yeah. So I won't spoil it for anybody. You're going to have to read it for yourself. But as I've gotten to know you through we've been on video calls with our community. Let's talk about All Things Narrative.
Yeah.
Just even hearing your title of so you founded that, but you've always been a natural storyteller. So let's go back in time a little bit. I think you always had it in you that this was going to be a thing and you kind of knew it, but can you share how this, from being young to present, how that kind of unfolded? Sure.
I mean, being able to write stories, tell stories in different artistic mediums, I share this in the book, but like first grade, I got to be in a play. I got to have the lead role. That was kind of like my first taste of I really like bringing stories to life in creative ways, and I'm a musician as well. And so I've had a lot of different experiences in the arts in being able to play around in the world of storytelling. And so I feel like as my career has developed and my educational journey, it's always been there in some way. And I didn't always quite know that that's what it was. Yeah. But when you look back on your story, when you take that time to reflect, you start to see, oh, that's the common theme. That's the thread that links everything together. That was about 5 years ago that I started to actually realize that. And then, people would call me like, oh, you're the story guy. You're the narrative guy, right? And I was working, as like a teacher at a nonprofit. And I was always interested in helping people to bring their stories to light, to have a sense of clarity of what their story is, the stories we tell ourselves, the stories we tell others, and what is the journey towards living our stories more intentionally, more meaningfully. And so that's what I've dedicated myself to. I feel like my whole life, just in different ways.
You're listening to Pathways with Amber Stitt. For more episodes like this, plus so much more, check out the podcast page at amberstitt.com. Let's take action together. Now let's get back to our episode. Now, I'm bringing this up because you're probably a natural, which then leads to you helping others do this in real life, because some people are going to have that, but you're not feeling that calling yet, or you're not trusting it. So it's like you gave yourself some grace 5 years ago. You're like, okay, we're going to do this.
Sure.
And I'm going to make a change.
Yeah.
So throughout the episodes with Pathways Live Unleashed here in Florida, Boca Raton, Florida, when we get through these episodes, there's this foundational element of like, what are people asking of you? And so you have these people coming to you and you're like, well, that's not my job. I don't. And then something comes to fruition and you're like, okay, you got to trust that I'm actually good at this. We're going to make this happen. So the reason I wanted to bring that up is that also you have developed some courses, and this new world that you have is now helping others pull their story forward. Can you share a little bit about, I almost feel like this is something you wish you would have had when you were younger, to say it's okay to be me and do these things. How is that then pulled into your curriculum and how you help people today?
Great questions there. So like the entrepreneurial spirit goes way back throughout my life. And so what I found myself doing starting in high school was I was creating these spaces where we can just get together and have people
like you're the
share
OG
the stories.
doing this.
Yeah. And I think that's half the battle, right? Is like making space and time in our lives for us to reflect on our story. Because life is busy. It moves quickly. Sometimes it's happening to us. We're reactive. We're not active. So how do we take the time to stop and reflect on our stories? And so when I eventually wanted to pursue a master's degree, I was like, oh man, I want to do something that like helps bring that together, right? And so there's a field of study called narrative therapy that I was very interested in. And as I studied it, I started developing what was going to become that course, right? That was actually my thesis innovation project, was we had to create something that would be able to bring a lot of these ideas and principles and practices of the world of narrative to the people that we serve, the people that we want to reach, right? And we've all got a story. Everyone's got a story to tell, right? And even though like, you were talking about this idea of being a natural, right? I think everybody does have a storytelling voice and a style that is natural to them, but we need someone to draw that out. We need someone to be able to listen and be able to coach and to be able to say, oh, this is what I'm seeing here, right? And so that's a lot of what my course here, my program does. The art of storytelling is really about immersing you in this world, what the art form is, the different ways that we express it, how each of us personally use it, right? As entrepreneurs, as leaders, as artists, in all these different ways.
Relationship, really.
Exactly. How do we find that storytelling voice that we have? How do we get clarity about what our story is, how we communicate it? And I found that as you do that, it changes the way you live the story of your life.
Interesting.
Yeah.
This episode of Pathways has been brought to you by Owl. Owl gives you access to new networks and valuable contacts, otherwise unreachable without a referral. Get in touch instantly in real time on a private one-on-one audio call. Search through vetted professionals to connect with the people you are looking for. Download the Owl app today and expand your reach. Okay. So for somebody to get actual proof of this, reading your chapter in your book that we have, Unleashed Entrepreneur, you weave this beautiful story, like almost like a character, and I'm not going to give it away.
Sure.
Like to get full evidence of like the proof of how you built one story, explaining it, like you have evidence in how you wrote the book. But can you explain to the audience, for the person listening, narrative? I mean, I could think of like Webster's definition. What does it mean to you? Narrative therapy, like what is that?
Sure. What is that?
You're the first person that's brought this up to me, and I think it's fascinating.
Cool. Yeah. So essentially, the foundation is what we call the narrative metaphor. And that's that we make sense of our lives through stories. It's as simple as that, right?
Therapy.
So as human beings, story has been a part of our DNA. It's been a part of our language. It's universal across cultures, across different groups, right? It's always been there. And so storytelling is a way that we make sense of the world around us and that we make sense of the world within as well, right? Of our own experiences, of our identity, of our relationships. And so narrative is essentially, we all have not just a narrative, but we have many narratives about things.
Well, I think you read the Word of God or the history, let's call it history of any sort, whatever people are reading.
Yeah.
There's always a story.
There is.
People are traveling and not such great, times and places and times and weather. And they got it done way before us. We're very lucky to be here at this point in time. But we're telling the story and writing it in something. I mean, that's right. It's been the dawn of time. We're communicating. And so it's important to share that. But we've been born doing that.
Yeah, and there's great books that talk about this as well, like psychologically, like The Storytelling Animal is a good one by Jonathan Gottschall, where it talks about how our brains, our psyches, everything about our being is wired for story, right? And so what I really get the pleasure of doing is unlocking that for people, is being able to help people to realize that you have a story and it is unique to you, right? There's a paradox within narrative, which is that on the one hand, we have stories that are unique. No one has the same exact patterns of experiences in life, right? But at the same time, we have themes and ideas that we share together within our stories. And that's how we connect with each other. People are going to read my chapter and the different chapters in this book, and there's going to be different things that they connect with in each person's story, right? So that's the beautiful paradox of narrative. And it's in that paradox that we ultimately are trying to make sense of life.
Yeah.
And what does my life ultimately mean?
Purpose.
Yeah.
From that, pulling into a business for a moment, there's people that say, study the people that you want to be like. So if you're reading these chapters, it could eventually, you could borrow 5,000, 10,000 hours of someone else's studies to then pull it into your own world and your own universe to figure out where it could click in and bring purpose. So I know that you have a podcast, and in addition to the courses and the podcast leading into this, I'm going to ask everybody, what really was the catalyst to unleash this entrepreneurship for yourself? Like, was there a certain path, or was it pathways? Like, did it just...
I think when we have stories and we become conscious of the stories that we're living, it's not just in the past and the present, but it's in the future, right? What is the story that I want my life to be told? We talk about legacy and these different words, but when we think about narrative, where do I ultimately want my life to go? And for me, I'm a father. I'm a husband. That's very, very important to me, right? And I want to be a father. I mean, my daughter's sitting right over there. I want to be a father that's all in for my family, right? And I wanted to create a lifestyle for myself where I could be more present with them, where I can do the things that I love, but on my own terms and not living somebody else's dream, right? And so that was really the catalyst, was just realizing, what do I want my story to be? And starting, a company, starting All Things Narrative, it gives me a lot more agency in how I want to be able to live out my story. And I mean, in the last few years, I've just seen such a shift in my relationship with my kids, in my marriage, in just my overall sense of being and purpose, right? A sense of contentment that I have. Even though as entrepreneurs, we're always looking for the next thing. But at the same time, I know that I'm doing what I'm called to do. And that's what gets me so excited, is I know this is the story. And that story is about helping people to unlock their story. And so it's just such a privilege to get to have that level of clarity and to chase after that narrative.
There's a bit of control in a good way. Controlling your own narrative. But what you're ultimately talking about is leadership. And that's part of the reason why, even today I was talking with some people here at the Owl Studios. We are live in Owl. The founder let us be here today, talking through, like, what do you do? Well, part of this is also showing leadership. So whether or not it's to ourselves, to others, it's really, we can show our families that they can do it too. So I think that's really special. So I'm glad that you're able to do that and help others do that. I know you've mentioned a couple things that people can Google search, but how would you like people to find you so that they can work with you?
Yeah. So allthingsnarrative.com has our coaching, workshops, classes, events here in the South Florida area, and our podcast that you mentioned as well. You can also find me on Instagram at All Things Narrative. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. I'm on those different places as well. So let's connect. I believe you have a story worth telling. And at All Things Narrative, we want to be your guide towards telling and living that story more meaningfully.
Do you think we should bring your daughter over real quick?
Sure. Do you want to come
ready?
over? So my daughter is here because it's take your kid to work day. And she told me, Daddy, I want to be an author one day. So she writing
her story right now.
She's literally over there writing a book right now. So I'm really proud of her and honored that she can get to see this. She's a little shy, but it comes out in her writing.
That's the point. We all do it in our own ways. And so eventually, and that's where I felt like in your story from the chapter of the book that you trusted your gut feeling, but sometimes it takes some different, like we talk about pathways to get to that point to be like, all right, it's time to execute that. Yes. So I'm really excited that we can do that this week together and meet our crew in real life. So
it's all a leap of faith.
Yep. Well, thanks for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Amber, for having me.
Yep. Thank you for joining us for this special edition of Pathways Unleashed, recorded at OWL headquarters here in Delray Beach, Florida. Join us for more powerful conversations with real people who dare to design life on their own terms. Until next time, keep taking action on your unique path.